Welcome back. This is Sandy with Sandy's Organized Chaos, and today we're going to be doing another extremely easy high-low look, but this time with a tattered paint edge. This look will be a for sure hit in your shop this summer. So if you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and let's wake up, prep those tumblers, and slay all day. Let's do this. I am starting out with a already prepped and painted tumbler here. Now I am using fluorescent paints, and you guys know those fluorescent paints are very translucent. So this is what I had to do to be able to make this paint flawless on my tumbler. I gave it 2 coats of a flat white paint. I let those dry completely. This is the paint that I use, just a basic flat. I feel like it works a little bit better than a glossy paint when it comes to these fluorescents. It just makes it not drip as much, and it'll give you a nice smooth finish. So I gave it 2 coats of that. I let that dry completely. Then I gave it 2 coats of my fluorescent paint here. And in between each one of those coats, I let it dry completely before adding another coat. Now, if you feel like it needs a third, please feel free to do that as well. You want this nice and bright and vibrant because this is our base for what we were about to do. The vinyl that I used, I got from Arteza, and this is just shocking pink from their opal or metallic lines or holographic line that they have there. And that's all I use. You just want to use something that matches your tumbler. And I'm using leopard spots, but you can use any type of design on the bottom of your tumbler to go with this. I went ahead and I printed out my leopard spots. I made those about 1 inch wide. Some of them came out a bit bigger, and that's okay. That's what I wanted. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and line the whole entire bottom of my tumbler, and I'm going to go 3 rows up, which, because I'm doing that, I want to go about halfway up my tumbler so that way I can get a good line going for that next part that we're going to do with the paint. So I'm going to go ahead and go about 3 lines up with my spots here. I really love that monochromatic look of this shocking pink holographic vinyl against that fluorescent pink tumbler. I think it just looked amazing. Now that we have our spots on, we are just essentially using our spots like a guide when we go to do the next step of this tumbler, and we're also using the lid as well. So I'm going to stop at that halfway mark. And as you can see, I turned it onto its side, and with these skinny straights that I'm using, it has these little tabs that kind of poke off the side, which really helped me out to figure out exactly where the side was of my tumbler. Then I placed a spot right up real high. Then I'm going to take those other spots and just continue that down, making that slanted look. Then I'm going to come back through and I'm going to put 1 more dot there in the middle, or cheetah print or leopard print, I don't know, something like that, the print that you're using. And you just want to fill that on really good. And now we have our template done for our painted drape look here. Now, I don't think I said this earlier, so I'm going to say it now. This is straight onto that painted tumbler. There's no epoxy over this tumbler. I let that tumbler dry overnight, making sure it was nice and cured before I added my spots on. Now, you just want to make sure that you do up the bottom as well. The bottom is very important, even if you add just 1 little spot there, and then she is good to go. Now we're ready to add our epoxy over top of it. Now, as you guys know, I really like to use Alumilite's Amazing Clear Cast line. I did use my quick coat for this so that way I could get it done quicker. I'm just saying, I was able to add the paint that we're going to be doing to it by the end of the day after this. So I got this done in the morning, and then I added the paint in the afternoon and kind of got it done pretty quick that way. These tumblers are very, very quick, very easy to do. The whole reason why I add a coat of epoxy over top of this before we do the paint is because I like to wipe away some of that paint, and it just really wouldn't work too well straight onto the vinyl and the painted tumbler. So we're going to go ahead and do just a pretty thin coat right over top, and then we'll move on to that next step. And of course, after every single time you apply your epoxy or tumbler, make sure you hit it up really good with your torch. Real quick motions right over top of it, and then just let it go. All right, here it is at the end of the day, and it is ready for its paint. Now, I'm going to be using a painter's tape to kind of mask off my area, but you could just freehand it. I mean, it doesn't really matter. You're going to know where it is, especially after you do these so many times. You'll figure out you don't really need the tape, but I'm going to show you guys how I do it with the tape. Or you can do the saran wrap over it if you guys choose to mask off your stuff with your saran wrap. You could do it that way too because it does not have to be perfect. We're just kind of making a little bit better of a line so that way we don't have to wipe off too much. Now, as you can see, I'm just taking my painter's tape and I'm just going about right in the middle of those spots that we made there. And you just want to continue that all the way around your tumbler, making a nice little template there for your paint job. Now you want to go ahead and mask off the rest of it. I just use tape to do that. Again, you can use your saran wrap or however you guys like, a piece of paper. I don't know. You just want to mask it off. That's all you want to do. Pretty simple. But as you can see, we just masked off the leopard spots there. We didn't mask off anything else because we want the rest of that to be this beautiful seaside teal blue from Rustoleum. Now I am going to make sure I shake my can really well, prime it, make sure it's blowing out good because sometimes those paints blow out all kinds of funky stuff and you don't want that. You want a nice smooth paint on your tumbler because there's nothing worse than it coming out all blotchy. So you want to shake it really good, prime it, and that's all you want to do. And as you can see, I'm holding my can back. It was a little windy, so I'm a little closer than usual, but I try to hold my can about 12 inches away from the tumbler, and I just do short bursts of spray paint all the way around. Then I let that dry completely. It probably took about 5-10 minutes, and then I'm going to come back through here. I'm going to give it a second coat. This is me giving it a second coat now. Then I'm going to let that dry another 5-10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and peel the tape off as well after that 5-10 minutes is up. And then I'm going to let it dry probably another 30-40 minutes. You want it to be very dry before you add your epoxy over it. But if you just follow these simple steps, holding the can back about 12 inches, doing short bursts, it will really help out with any drips that might form onto your tumbler whenever you are spray painting. But I know that you guys got this, and I know that the tumblers that you are going to make are going to be even better than mine. Now again, another 5-10 minutes went by, and I'm going to very carefully, not touch that paint, or try not to. And then I'm going to peel back that tape, and I'm going to let it air dry for another 30-40 minutes or so before we move on to that next step. If you do accidentally put your fingerprint into your paint, I just take a little bit of water on my finger and I smooth it back and forth really fast, and that really helps out smoothing out any little imperfections you might have caused on that tumbler. All right, we are back inside, and as I just showed you, I had some 100% acetone there that I got from the dollar store. That was $1, and it comes in one of those cool little pumps, so I'm just saying. And now we are ready to kind of give our edges a little bit of a tattered look. Now, in the beginning, I did use a paper towel, but then I moved over to my flannel receiving blankets that I like to use because it worked a little bit better. So however you guys choose to do this, you could use paper towel, you could use a piece of fabric, however you feel comfortable doing it, or you could use a Q-tip, whatever you guys like to use. Now again, I'm going to go ahead and put my lid back on to use that as my guide so I know which ways I want to be the front, which way I want to be the back, and that really helps out with making sure that our little high-low look is uniform with each other. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use that 100% acetone. You don't want to wipe too much because this does wipe away a lot. So you just want to very carefully come through and even out those box edges because you can see the tape really made some points. You just kind of want to round everything out. So I'm going to come up here, I'm going to round this little edge out, and I'm going to turn it over onto the other side, and I'm going to make sure that I round those edges out as well. You don't want to remove too much because then it might get a little too high on you, and if it does, just come back through and add a little bit more spray paint. It's not a big deal. So if you accidentally do that, that's an easy fix. So we're just making sure that we come through and rub those edges because we want it tattered, and that's exactly the look that we're going for here. So here I am just smoothing out that other side, making sure that it's more rounded rather than pointy. And after I get everything all rounded out, I'm going to come back through with my acetone one more time, and I'm going to clean up any paint that kind of is on the bottom that we don't want. So I'm just going to come through and smooth it all out. Then after I am done with this, we are going to come back through with our rubbing alcohol, and we're just going to clean it up just a little bit more. All right, now that I have that all cleaned up the way that I would like, we're going to move on to our rubbing alcohol. Now again, the acetone takes away a lot of paint, and the rubbing alcohol is what makes it more smooth and more fluid around those edges without removing a lot of paint, because you don't want to remove too much more paint after this. You just want to come back through and tidy it up even more. Now, as you can see, I just spritzed it right onto my flannel blanket there, and I'm just gonna go around those edges and make it look the way that I would want. Again, you don't wanna fuss with it too much, and the whole point of this is it's supposed to look a little tattered, a little broken, and give it just a little bit more texture to it once you are done. So you don't need to fuss with it too much, just clean it up and get it the way that you would like it, and she is good to go. Now I have a lot more ideas for this kind of look, and I think I'm going to be using a lot more different colors and stuff like that, and I'll make sure to post that into my community tab when I am done, because I think everybody in my family needs one. Well, except for Jeff. I don't know if he wants one. But now I think that is done there, and we're ready to apply another coat of epoxy over top before I add my decal. I do this just so that way if I mess up my decal, I can peel it off and I don't accidentally peel up my paint in that process. So I'm going to go ahead and apply another thin coat of epoxy over top of this. Again, I'm using my quick set here, even though I didn't work on it until the next morning. But still, if you wanted to work on it in the middle of the night, because I know some of you guys like to work in the middle of the night, you'll be able to finish it up at night if you would like to. So I'm going to go ahead and apply this, hit it up really good with my torch, and we will apply my decal. I am going to briefly go over how I did my decal and how I did my offset here. Extremely easy. I just did it right into my Cricut Studio here. I have my name picked out. That's Delilah. That's my daughter. She was very pleased with her tumbler, by the way. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I did the offset. I want to do a very, very thin offset. And I'm just going to show you here. I'm going to bring that down. I think it was 0.028. Let me see. Let me get it down there and then I'll tell you. Yes, it was 0.028. That's how thin I did my offset. So I'm going to go ahead and apply my offset there. Then I'm going to show you guys the font that I used. The font that I used, I got off defont.com. I'll put everything into the description box below. And this is called Bonjour. Again, I thought it went really well with the look that we were doing. It had kind of that brush look to it, and I thought it went really well with that tattered edge of the tumbler. So you just want to make sure that you squeeze everything together, and then once it's squeezed together, you might have to undo everything and kind of slide it around, but I didn't need to with this particular font. You still want to make sure that you weld it so that way everything is a nice smooth cut. You want to apply your offset, and then you are ready to apply it to your tumbler. For the 20-ounce skinny, I like to do about 5.5 inches of width, so that's about how wide I did mine, and whatever it was set to as far as the length was is how I did it, and I thought that fit really well onto my tumbler here. Now here it is the next day. You see that beautiful tattered look, and we're ready to apply our decal. I'm going to go ahead and put my lid back on because again I like to gauge where my center is. It really helps out. And I am going to be using a teal vinyl, and I'm also going to be using that same shocking pink vinyl to go underneath it. So that was the underneath portion of my offset. That was the offset portion. There we go. And then over top, I'm going to do that teal vinyl. And I thought it just went really well, again, with kind of that monochromatic look that we were going after. I just thought that it really gave it a different look than you typically see. Now I feel more comfortable applying my offsets in sections. That's why you see me doing it this way. You just want to be very careful because that offset on the bottom is extremely thin. So you want to make sure that you really take your time and line that up very well. So that way that little bit of offset shows underneath that teal. Now once you have your offset applied, you are ready to add your last 2 finishing coats of epoxy. You're going to let that cure completely for about 3 days, and then she is good to go. Whether you take this design and duplicate it as is, or you take it and let it inspire you to create something that is completely your own, I hope that you guys had a lot of fun watching this tutorial today. Again, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.